The desert does not forgive weakness. It buries names. It swallows screams. It leaves bones where hope once stood. When Nathaniel Crowe saw the 3 bodies lying in the red sand, he did not see strangers. He saw a choice. The wind dragged across the empty plain, carrying dust and silence. No horses, no gunfire, no sign of who had done this. Just 3 women, broken and discarded beneath a merciless sun. In this land, helping the wrong people could cost you everything: your ranch, your life, your name. But walking away would cost something worse. Before the first drop of blood was ever spilled at his doorstep, before the tribe came riding under painted skies, before rain washed away exile and fear, there was this moment. A man standing alone in the desert, 3 women barely breathing, and a decision that would redraw every boundary he thought he understood. Some lines, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed, and some homes are not found. They are built in defiance.
Nathaniel Crowe tightened his grip on the reins as his horse slowed to a halt. The land stretched flat and endless beneath the burning Arizona sky. Red dust rolled in lazy spirals around 3 motionless shapes lying ahead. For a long second, Nathaniel did not move. His hand rested near the handle of his revolver. Silence. Too much silence. He scanned the horizon. No riders, no circling buzzards yet, no shifting shadows behind the rock ridges. Still, something felt wrong. In this territory, silence was rarely innocent. He dismounted carefully. The first body he reached was an older woman. Her gray-streaked braid was half undone, face pressed into the dirt. Leather bindings cut into her wrists. Across her back, whip scars layered like cruel handwriting. Nathaniel knelt, pressed 2 fingers against her neck. A pulse. Weak, but alive. The second was younger, maybe late 20s. Dark hair tangled with sand. One hand clutched a broken blade so tightly her knuckles were white. Blood soaked through her sleeve. Alive. The third was the smallest. She lay curled slightly on her side, breathing shallowly. One hand rested protectively over her abdomen. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. He knew what this meant. Apache. And not just attacked, cast out. Helping them would not be misunderstood. It would be considered theft. Or worse, defiance. He looked again at the open desert. If he left now, no one would know he had been here. They would die before sundown. His knife slid free. One by one, he cut their bindings. Damn it, he muttered under his breath. He lifted the youngest first. She was lighter than she should have been. Fragile. Heat radiated from her skin. He laid her across the saddle, then went back for the others. Each step back to his horse felt like stepping across a border, invisible but permanent. By the time he mounted again, the sun had climbed higher. Sweat rolled down his neck. He did not look back at the place where he had found them, because he already knew there would be consequences. The cabin was small. Rough timber. A roof patched more times than he cared to count. Inside, he laid the women near the hearth. The fire crackled low. He worked silently. Cleaned wounds with whiskey. Wrapped gashes with torn strips from old shirts. Forced water between cracked lips. The youngest stirred first near dawn. Her eyes opened slowly, amber, sharp despite exhaustion. She tried to sit up. Nathaniel raised both hands calmly. Easy. Don't touch me, she rasped, reaching blindly for something to defend herself with. You're not tied, he said evenly. Door's not locked. That made her pause. The other 2 began to wake. The older woman pushed herself upright with visible pain but steady dignity. The middle one, fierce eyes, jaw set hard, immediately positioned herself between Nathaniel and the youngest. Who are you? She demanded. Nathaniel Crowe. This is my ranch. You should have left us, the fierce one said. Maybe. Silence filled the cabin. The older woman studied him carefully. No one helps us without reason. Nathaniel leaned back against the wall. Then don't look for one. The youngest's hand remained protectively over her stomach. Nathaniel noticed. He said nothing. The fierce one spoke again. We are no longer tribe. I figured. Then you know they'll come. Nathaniel met her gaze without blinking. Yes. Outside, wind pushed against the cabin walls. Inside, 4 strangers sat in a space that suddenly felt too small for neutrality. The older woman finally said, My name is Miriam. The fierce one hesitated. Then, Tala. The youngest swallowed. Elena. Nathaniel nodded once. He did not offer comfort. He did not offer promises. He simply stood, placed his rifle within reach, and said, "You can leave when you're strong enough." Elena studied him carefully. "And if we stay?" Nathaniel walked to the door, opening it wide to the morning light. "Then we build." And in that moment, quiet, fragile, dangerous, the line in the sand was drawn. The second day began with quiet tension. Not the kind that shouts, the kind that waits. Nathaniel was outside repairing a loose fence post when he felt it. That shift in the air. Birds had stopped. Even the wind had gone still. Inside the cabin, Miriam was washing dried blood from Tala's arm. Elena sat near the hearth, staring into dying embers, her hand resting gently over her stomach. She had not spoken much, but her eyes missed nothing. A sudden thud cracked through the stillness. All three women froze. Nathaniel turned slowly toward the cabin door. Another second of silence, then Tala moved first, stepping toward the door like a coiled spring. Nathaniel reached it before she did. He pulled it open sharply. An arrow was embedded deep into the wooden frame. Red feathers. Black stone tip. Not meant to kill. Meant to warn. Tala's jaw tightened. "They're close." Miriam stepped forward slowly. She touched the arrow shaft like someone recognizing a familiar scar. "This is from Elder Rokan's circle," she said quietly. Elena's breath quickened. "They won't forgive." Nathaniel pulled the arrow free. Held it in his hand. Measured its weight. "How many?" he asked calmly. Tala answered without hesitation. "Enough." That night, no one slept. Nathaniel placed sandbags beneath the windows. Reinforced the shutters. Loaded the Winchester he had not touched in months. Tala asked for a weapon. He handed her an unloaded revolver first. She looked at him. "Trust is built slow," he said. She nodded once. Outside, the moon hung sharp and pale over the ranch. Miriam stepped onto the porch beside Tala during first watch. "You're angry," Miriam said. "I was always angry." "No," Miriam replied softly. "Before, you were trapped. Now you're choosing." Tala didn't respond. On the distant ridge, a faint fire flickered. A signal. They were being watched. The next afternoon, hooves thundered across drive. Elena saw them first. Riders. Painted faces. Upright spears. More than 20. Nathaniel stepped into the yard before they reached the gate. He did not raise his rifle, but he did not lower it either. The riders split cleanly. And from the center rode an older man draped in deer hide, silver beads woven into his braid. Chief Rokan. His eyes landed on the cabin. Then on the three women standing behind Nathaniel. "You took what was cast out," Rokan said evenly. Nathaniel replied, "I found what was left to die." Murmurs among the warriors. Tala stepped forward. "We were not cast out," she said. "We stepped away." Rokan's gaze sharpened. "You broke blood law." Miriam answered, her voice steady despite the scars on her wrists. "Blood law broke us first." Silence stretched tight as rope. Elena moved last. She did not hide her stomach. "I will not give my child to a tribe that tried to bury it before birth." A warrior snarled. Nathaniel shifted slightly, positioning himself between them without making it obvious. Rokan watched everything. "You have 3 days," the chief said finally. "Return willingly." Or we return without words. The riders turned in perfect formation. Dust swallowed them. But the message remained. 3 days. Inside the cabin, the silence felt heavier than before. Nathaniel set the arrow on the table. "Gates unlocked," he said quietly. "No one's trapped here." Tala met his eyes. "You think we stayed because we couldn't leave?" "No." "Good." Miriam folded a cloth slowly. "If we run again, we remain hunted. If we stand, at least we choose how." Elena looked around the cabin, the rough beams, the patched roof, the worn wooden table. "If we stay," she whispered, "we build." Nathaniel nodded once. "Then we build." They worked until hands blistered. Sandbags stacked against walls. Planks reinforced across windows. Water barrels filled. A shallow trench dug along the west side of the fence. Tala moved with fierce precision. Miriam stitched canvas into storage sacks. Elena learned to hammer nails straight, though her hands trembled at first. "You're holding it wrong," Nathaniel corrected gently. She adjusted. Hit again. Stronger. By sunset, the ranch no longer looked abandoned. It looked defended. That night, as the fire burned brighter than usual, Elena stepped outside alone. Nathaniel followed quietly. "Afraid?" he asked. Yes, she admitted. Me too. She looked at him. Why are you doing this? Nathaniel stared at the horizon. Because once, someone left me in the dirt. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. Elena nodded slowly. If they come, she said, I won't hide. Nathaniel looked at her carefully. I know. Inside, Miriam placed the arrow into a crack in the cabin wall. Let it stay, she said, so we remember. Tala checked the revolver Nathaniel had finally loaded. 3 days. Outside, the desert wind rose again. But inside the cabin, something stronger had taken root. Not fear. Not revenge. Choice. The third morning arrived without wind. That was the first sign. The desert felt suspended as if the land itself was holding its breath. Nathaniel stood in the yard before sunrise. Winchester cleaned. Boots planted firm in dust that had not yet been disturbed. Inside, no one spoke. Miriam tied her braid tightly. Tala wrapped leather around her wrists. Elena stood near the doorway, one hand resting over her stomach, not hiding it. Then came the sound. Not thunder. Hooves. Slow at first. Then many. They crested the ridge in silence, more than 50 riders. No war cries. No arrows drawn. They formed a wide circle round the ranch. In the center rode Chief Roken. But today he did not come for blood. He came with stones. 3 flat stones were laid in a circle in Nathaniel's yard, the tribe's oldest form of judgment. 2 elder women stepped forward beside Roken. This was not an attack. This was Arasuer. Roken's voice carried across the yard. You were given time. Tala stepped forward first. I did not return. You broke marriage law. I refused ownership. Murmurs rippled through the riders. Miriam walked into the circle next. You taught letters forbidden to women, one elder accused. I taught my daughter her own name, Miriam answered calmly. Elena moved last. The entire circle seemed to tighten when they saw her stomach. You carry child without union blessing, the elder woman said. Elena lifted her chin. I carry life without your permission. Silence. Roken studied them long. Then he spoke the sentence that weighed heavier than death. Your names are removed from blood record. A warrior stepped forward with a small leather scroll. The names were scratched out. You are no longer daughters of this tribe. The air felt hollow. Nathaniel stepped forward. They are daughters of this land now. Roken's gaze turned cold. You accept their exile. You accept their fate. If blood spills because of them, it spills on you. Nathaniel did not hesitate. I accept. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Roken raised his hand. The circle broke. The riders turned. And they left. Not with rage, but with finality. Tala exhaled slowly. Miriam stood straighter. Elena touched her stomach again, but this time not in fear. They had lost their names. But they had chosen themselves, and that made them harder to erase. The sky changed that afternoon. Clouds gathered thick and low, rolling over the red hills like dark wool. Nathaniel was at the well when the first drop fell. Then another. Then many. Rain in this land was rare. Sacred. Elena stepped into the yard first. She lifted her face to the sky. Water touched her skin like forgiveness. Tala removed her scarf, letting rain wash dust from her hair. Miriam sat on the porch, watching as if witnessing something holy. Nathaniel stood back, hoe in hand, feeling something inside him soften that had been hardened for years. Rain washed the footprints from the judgment circle. Washed the hoof marks. Washed the dust that carried accusation. The earth drank deeply. Elena whispered, I have not stood in rain since I was chosen to marry. Miriam answered gently, then stand now as someone who chose herself. They stayed in the rain until clothes clung to skin and hair hung heavy. No one laughed loudly. But something quiet shifted. Inside the cabin that night, no one kept first watch. Weapons were within reach. But not clutched. For the first time, they slept without expecting to be hunted. The rain did not end exile. But it marked rebirth. Morning after rain smells different. The soil was dark and alive. Nathaniel rose before dawn. This time, he carried no rifle. He carried seeds. Tala was already outside repairing fence boards. Miriam brought a woven basket of beans and corn kernels. Elena followed slower but steady. They planted in silence. One row. Then another. Each seed pressed into softened earth like a quiet promise. If they grow, Elena said softly, we grow. They will, Nathaniel replied. By noon, Sweat replaced rain. They repaired roof patches. Reinforced the barn. Dug irrigation channels to guide leftover water. Miriam stitched canvas into sacks. Tala hammered boards into place with precision. Elena learned to move carefully but confidently. Nathaniel watched them not as strangers he rescued, but as partners building. That evening, he carved a small wooden symbol, 3 overlapping circles. Not tried. Not blood. Choice. He mounted it above the cabin door. When sunset painted the land gold, they sat together on the porch. No guards posted. No circle of judgment. Just 4 figures under an open sky. I thought exile meant ending, Tala said quietly. Miriam shook her head. Sometimes it means beginning. Elena placed Nathaniel's hand briefly over her stomach. You gave my child a place to be born. Nathaniel swallowed. You gave this land a reason to be lived on. Night fell gently. The ranch no longer felt like a hiding place. It felt claimed. They had lost names written on scrolls. But they had written new ones in wood, soil, and rain. And those names would not be erased by dust. Some homes are not inherited. They are defended. Some families are not born by blood. They are chosen in moments when walking away would be easier. The desert tried to swallow them. The tribe tried to erase them. But they planted instead of running. They built instead of begging. And sometimes, that is enough.